Denise Diane Pflum was born on January 14, 1968. By 1986, she was an 18-year-old senior at Connorsville High School in Indiana, known for being hardworking and high-achieving. She was a member of the National Honor Society and served as treasurer of the school's science club. Athletics played a major role in her life. She played volleyball, softball, and basketball, and competed on the track team, where she hoped to secure a scholarship to continue running in college. Denise had already been accepted to Miami University of Ohio, where she planned to major in microbiology. Her future was mapped out. She intended to pursue her studies there in the fall, building on the academic and athletic discipline she'd shown throughout high school. On a personal level, Denise had recently ended a 3-year relationship with her boyfriend, Sean, also referred to as Sean McClung. The breakup had occurred about a month before she disappeared. Her mother, Judy, later noted that Denise seemed to be opening up more socially in the wake of the split, spending more time with friends and embracing new experiences. Denise was also looking forward to her senior prom, set to take place the following month. By all accounts, there was nothing unusual happening in her life at the time. No signs of distress, no change in behavior, and no indication she had any reason to want to disappear. She was, by every measure, a grounded young woman with a clear sense of direction and a future ahead of her. The night before Denise vanished, she attended a bonfire party held on rural farmland in Fayette County, Indiana. It was a large gathering, drawing several hundred students from the area, the kind of casual, low-key event that was common among teenagers in the small Indiana community at the time. At some point during the party, Denise left her purse behind. It's unclear exactly when or how this happened, but by the time the night ended, she had left the farm without it. At the time, it likely seemed like a minor inconvenience, the kind of thing that happens at any crowded party, easily fixed with a quick trip back the next day. But that small detail would end up setting off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. The decision to retrieve the purse the following afternoon would be the reason Denise left her home one final time. The farmland itself, the site of the party, would also become a key location in the investigation that followed, as authorities worked to determine whether Denise had ever actually made it back there, or whether something had happened to her before she could complete the trip. On March 28, 1986, around 12:30 p.m., Denise left her family's home in Everton, Indiana, intending to drive back to the farmland where the bonfire party had been held to retrieve her missing purse. Before setting out, she called several friends to see if any of them would accompany her on the trip. None were available. Reportedly reluctant to go alone, Denise ultimately decided to make the drive by herself anyway. Before pulling away from her house, she had a brief conversation with a neighbor. That exchange would later be confirmed as the last known sighting of Denise. Later that afternoon, a friend told Denise's mother, Judy, that she believed she had seen Denise at the Fashion Bug clothing store. However, when the friend described what Denise had been wearing, the details didn't match the outfit Denise had on when she left home that day. The discrepancy cast doubt on whether the sighting was accurate, leaving investigators uncertain whether Denise had actually been there. Meanwhile, the farmer who owned the land where the party had taken place later reported that Denise never arrived to collect her purse. In a cruel twist, the purse itself was returned to her parents by a distant cousin about an hour after Denise had already left home to go retrieve it herself. There was no way to reach Denise and let her know the purse had already been found. She had already driven off, unaware that her trip was no longer necessary. Denise's locked 1981 cream-colored Buick Regal was found parked along Tower Road, a gravel lane near a barn east of Glenwood, Indiana, roughly 3 miles from where the bonfire party had taken place. There was no apparent reason for Denise to be in that particular area, and nothing about the location connected to her usual routine or known whereabouts. A farmer working nearby had noticed the car sitting in the same spot since approximately 12:30 to 1:15 p.m. the previous day. At first, he assumed it belonged to mushroom hunters, a common enough sight in the rural area at that time of year, and thought little of it. But when Denise's family reported her missing, the farmer's observation took on new significance. He contacted the county sheriff's department to report the parked vehicle, and investigators soon connected it to the search for Denise. When authorities examined the Buick, they found it locked, with no signs of a struggle inside or around it. No physical evidence was recovered at the scene that could explain what had happened to Denise or indicate where she had gone after leaving the car. Adding to the mystery, Denise had left behind her ID, as well as the carrying case and cleaning solution for her contact lenses, items she would have needed if she had planned to be away from home for any length of time. Their presence in the car reinforced the belief that Denise had never intended to disappear, and that something had stopped her from returning home as planned. When Denise's parents, David and Judith, first reported her missing, the response from local authorities left much to be desired. They were reportedly told to stay calm, with police suggesting Denise's absence might simply be typical teenage behavior, a phase she'd returned from on her own. Unsatisfied with this response, the Pflums took matters into their own hands. They began calling all of Denise's friends, hoping someone might know where she had gone or had heard from her. They also drove up and down the surrounding countryside, searching for any sign of a car wreck, fearing she may have been in an accident. David later recalled that the family did not believe Denise had ever made it back to the farm to retrieve her purse. He stated that something, or someone, had interrupted her before she could complete the trip, and that the family knew almost immediately that something was wrong, given that Denise never went anywhere without telling them. Judith echoed this, recalling a gut feeling that something wasn't right on the very day Denise vanished. On April 2nd, a 100-acre plot of farmland where the party had been held was searched by both police and firefighters. A separate 300-acre search was conducted near Glenwood, in the area where Denise's car had been found. Neither search produced any clues. Investigators found no indication that Denise had left home of her own free will. Given her strong academic standing, active involvement in school sports, and the fact that she had taken nothing with her, not even her ID, authorities did not consider her a runaway. As the weeks turned into months, the investigation into Denise's disappearance began to stall. In May 1986, a $10,000 reward was offered for information leading to her whereabouts. Despite some unconfirmed tips trickling in, the reward was never claimed, and none of the leads produced any meaningful progress. In August 1988, over 2 years after Denise vanished, Judith Pflum received a phone call from a young woman in Norfolk, Virginia, claiming to be her daughter. The call came on Judith's day off, a detail the caller seemed to know, and the family, desperate for answers, traveled to Virginia to meet her. But when they arrived, the woman denied ever having made the call or knowing who they were. She later admitted that she had in fact called the Pflums, explaining that she believed she had seen Denise at a local shopping center. Despite the pain caused by the hoax, the family chose not to press charges. As the years passed, the case grew colder. In 2014, investigators extracted DNA from one of Denise's baby teeth and submitted it to the National DNA Database, but no matches were found. Compounding the difficulty, case evidence had been lost or destroyed over the decades, limiting how much modern forensic technology could contribute to the investigation. The original investigation also drew criticism. The lead detective assigned to the case was a relative of Denise's father, and his handling of the inquiry reportedly lacked thorough documentation, leaving significant gaps in the case file for future investigators to work around. In 2018, the Fayette County Sheriff's Department, under Sheriff Joey Laughlin, made the decision to take a fresh look at Denise's cold case. To assist with the renewed effort, they brought on retired Detective Supervisor Tom Barker, who began the painstaking work of re-examining old case files, reviewing evidence that had survived the decades, and re-interviewing witnesses who had originally spoken to police back in 1986. As part of this renewed push, investigators received a tip that led them to search the Mary Gray Bird Sanctuary in Connorsville. Cadaver dogs were brought in and alerted near a pond on the property, raising hopes that the search might finally yield a breakthrough. However, the examination of the area was delayed due to torrential rains. When the pond was finally searched, nothing was found. That same year, in December 2018, investigators turned their attention back to Sean McClung, Denise's ex-boyfriend. McClung was brought in for interrogation as part of the renewed investigation. This followed a voice stress test he had taken back in 2017, a less reliable interrogation tool compared to a polygraph, which he reportedly failed. His connection to Denise, combined with the failed test, kept him a notable figure in the case, even though he had not been formally named a suspect or person of interest at that point. In early 2020, investigators announced a significant development in Denise's case. New information had come to light that led them to believe she had been murdered. This marked a turning point in how authorities approached the decades-old disappearance, shifting the investigation from a missing persons case to one centered on finding evidence of a homicide. Based on this new information, investigators believed Denise's remains had been buried in an undisclosed location somewhere in rural Fayette County. Acting on this belief, authorities conducted multiple searches of the area, employing advanced technology, including ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dogs, in an effort to locate her body. Despite these efforts, no remains were ever found. Fayette County Sheriff Joey Laughlin spoke about the state of the investigation at the time, revealing that there were several persons of interest connected to the case. However, he noted that there simply wasn't enough evidence to charge anyone. Laughlin went further, stating his belief that more than one person was likely involved in Denise's disappearance and death, a conclusion he based on statements certain individuals had made over the years, as well as their relationships to Denise. Despite this insight, the case remained unsolved, with no arrests made and no concrete leads on the location of her remains. In July 2020, while being held in custody on an unrelated fraud charge, Sean McClung confessed to taking Denise's life back in 1986. According to his confession, Denise had picked him up on March 28th, the day she vanished, and the two had gotten into an argument. During that argument, McClung claimed he killed her. He went on to say that he had then called several friends to help him move her body afterward. McClung agreed to give this confession in exchange for immunity and the dismissal of the unrelated charges against him. However, the agreement came with a critical condition. He was not to withhold any information about what had happened. When McClung was unable to tell investigators where Denise's remains could be found, his immunity was withdrawn and he was formally charged with voluntary manslaughter. At the time of his arrest, McClung was already suffering from an undisclosed terminal illness. He died on September 26, 2020, at the age of 56, before the case could ever go to trial. In a final twist, just 5 days before his death, McClung recanted his confession entirely. He told his lawyer that he didn't actually know what had happened to Denise and that he had only confessed to avoid jail time on the unrelated charges he was facing. Denise's parents, for their part, had reservations about the confession from the very beginning. They noted that several details in McClung's account didn't align with the known facts of the case, leaving them with more questions than answers even after his death. In the spring of 2021, a renewed search effort was launched in an attempt to finally locate Denise's remains. EquiSearch Midwest, working alongside Indiana Canine Search and Recovery and the Fayette County Sheriff's Department, conducted a search of an undisclosed area within Fayette County. The operation lasted approximately 12 hours, but despite the combined resources and expertise involved, no discoveries were made. To this day, Denise Pflum's case remains officially unsolved. There is still no confirmed location of her remains, and despite Sean McClung's confession years earlier, no one has ever been formally charged in connection with her death. The case continues to sit in a painful limbo, a family without answers, and a community left wondering what truly happened to Denise on that spring afternoon in 1986. The Pflum family has not given up hope. They currently offer a $100,000 reward for information that leads to Denise's location, as well as the identification of those responsible for her disappearance and presumed death.